151 laps to go in Charlotte. Kurt Busch remains one of the fastest cars on the racetrack, and he enjoys a 2-second lead on David Rudiman.
Now, Mike, we're about 15 laps away from green flag pit stops. Our FedEx understanding the race. We're going through that last transition. We're going through the nighttime here. And if you look right here as far as temperatures, air temperature, we dropped about 6 degrees since the start of the race, but almost 20 degrees. Much more grip, some of the fastest speeds of the race. What the car will need, we still got several pit stops, one more major adjustment, but remember, you need to be ready in the latter part of this race for a long run or maybe a short run for that late race caution.
And what that does, that's kind of a crew chief thing, Larry. You got to have a set of tires aired up to go a couple of different ways. You can't just have them late. You got to have the short run tire pressures and the long run tire pressures. So you got to be ready in the pits.
Here's David Rudiman in second place. We invite you to join errands by texting AFF to 50555. You'll make a $10 donation to the Armed Forces Foundation to provide vital support to America's military and their families. Now, Rudiman's lap times are right even with Kurt Busch's, but he remains 2 seconds off the lead. Jamie McMurray trying to gain a little ground here in third.
It's amazing to me how McMurray stepped up as soon as he found out Chip was here. I mean, the car picked up a couple of tenths as soon as he talked to Chip on the radio.
And Clint Boyer, fastest of the Childress cars right now, about 4 seconds off the lead in fourth.
But I'm going to tell you, right behind him, we've talked about Jeff Burton, but Matt Kenseth in that 17 car. This is a Matt Kenseth type of a race. He's cracked the top 5, and remember, Matt got his first of his 18 career wins here in the Coca Cola 600 back in May of 2000.
I just see a lot of our old buddies creeping into the picture. You know, when you talk about Kenseth and on down there a little bit, Jeff Gordon's still hanging around. Burton's in ninth.
Well, how about Harvick?
And Harvick's there. You know, some of these guys that kind of know how to run this race are starting to creep up toward the front.
But Darrell, you're right. These are some drivers we wouldn't expect to see at the front of the field until after 500 miles had passed.
Well, I think it's because of some of the problems that some of the fast guys have had. Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, you know, the 20 car of Gano, those were all front-running cars that have had trouble in the pits.
Paul Menard with a great day in 7th, and Jeff Gordon running 8th, trying to hold off Jeff Burton here. About 11 seconds off the leader. And who just jumped in the middle, but Greg Biffle.
Good way to put it, too. He scares me to death there. Watch, I guarantee you, watch. There'll be some sparks come off that right rear when he exits the corner.
I like what you said earlier. He's going to run about a 700 miler tonight.
He's running further than anybody.
Tony Stewart just outside the top 10. Trying to better the handling on that. Stewart's never had a Memorial Day weekend win either in NASCAR Sprint Cup or the Indy Racing League.
But I can only remember a couple of years ago, he had about a 5.5 second lead with 3 laps to go and had a flat tire driving that 20 car.
Mark Martin coming into the picture in 12th. Now, that's right about where he started, the 6th row, and he's 15 seconds off the leader.
Mark's very happy right now. We haven't talked much about him tonight.
And he's all by himself.
He's all by himself, just riding along.
Joey Logano currently 13th. Started in the top 10, but his lap time's right on top of the leaders in a 31:60. And Paul Menard moves up past Kevin Harvick and into 6th. Tell you, this could turn out to be a career day for the Wisconsin driver. Now Carl Edwards, after hitting the wall in practice, jumped into this backup car and finds himself in 14th, and that's half the distance to the lead from where he started the day, 29th. Running with Casey Kane. Boosford started 4th, but other than the first 10 or 12 laps, just never showed the promise of being able to run up front.
Yeah, they made a pit, I think it's a 2nd or 3rd pit stop. They did something to that race car, and it hadn't performed since.
Guy that's got to be disappointed right now is our pole sitter in that Army car, Ryan Newman, the 39, sat on the pole, and he's just really not been a player. He's sitting there in the 16th position. Biggest complaint, car just will not turn when he turns the steering wheel.
will be coming up on 400 miles and green flag pit stops. Stay with us.
The Coca Cola 600 on Fox is delivered by UPS. Log on to ups.com/racing to enter the UPS $100,000 Trackside Challenge.
David Gilliland, Scott Speed, and Bill Elliott have begun the parade to pit road under the green flag. 136 laps to go. None of the lead lap cars have yet made a stop in this sequence. There's your leader, Kurt Busch, 1.7 seconds ahead of David Rudiman, Jamie McMurray, Clint Boyer, and Matt Kenseth. And you hear that he will be on pit road in 5 laps.
Yeah, right up ahead of him is Jimmy Johnson to put him a lap down. So he may pit. Kurt, the 2-car, may pit before he gets to Jimmy Johnson.
And you know, the Fords, they've been the first to hit pit road on these green flag pit stops.
Casey Mears on pit road. Mears driving in relief of Brian Vickers, who is out for the season with blood clot issues. Brian talked to him Monday, says he's feeling well and gets to golf, but doesn't get to drive a race car the rest of this season. Martin Truex on pit road. Krista?
Well, his last run, Mike, he called baffling. This time he got so tight, he said, if my car gets any tighter, I will knock the wall down. You see major adjustments going on with that 56. Steve?
Greg Biffle on pit road. He says his car is loose. They're going to take 4 tires, and they've already made an air pressure adjustment on the 16.
Kevin Conway is in. Marcus Ambrose as green flag stops continue. Here comes Clint Boyer to the pit lane, trailing Matt Kenseth. Also Paul Menard. Steve?
Matt Kenseth in the 17. He says there are going to be no adjustments on that car. The 33 of Clint Boyer. He says his car has gotten tight. No changes for Kenseth. 4 tires. Clint Boyer in the 33. They're going to take wedge out of the left rear, and they've already made an air pressure adjustment.
Pole sitter Ryan Newman in along with Brad Keselowski and David Reagan. As we're about a quarter way through this round of green flag stops. Matt?
The past 2 segments very rough for the pole sitter Newman. His car really unstable and loose on entry and snappy and almost wrecking loose on exit. Major adjustment for the 39.
Mark Martin in, Kevin Harvick, Tony Stewart, Jeff Burton, Casey Kane, and Kyle Busch. Steve?
Tony Stewart trying to stay inside the top 10 here. Down on pit road, definitely 4 tires on the 14. Matt?
And on the previous run, Kevin Harvick said the car was, if anything, a little bit on the tight side, but he hadn't even driven a hard lap yet. 4 tire change, just stop, air pressure change. Krista?
Kurt Busch is in. You see the wrench going in the back window, just a minor adjustment. Kurt talking about just getting in a little bit too snug late on that run. 4 tires for the 2.
Jeff Gordon, Joey Logano in. Jimmy Johnson completes his stop. Dick?
Well, David Rudiman had been running in the 2nd position before that round of pit stops. McMurray in the 1, Rudiman in the 00. Both are going to have an easy out. Both have race cars that are so close that they each have a chance to win this event. Minor changes on each of those 2 cars on pit road that you're watching right now. 4 tires for both.
That leaves only Denny Hamlin still on the racetrack. Everyone else has made a stop in this green flag sequence.
And it's still a 2-stop race because we've got 130 laps to go, and we can go about 52 to 54 laps on a tank of Sunoco race fuel.
Sam Hornish too fast entering pit road. That'll be a drive-through penalty, which Hornish is serving now.
And with the issues that Denny Hamlin, the 11 team Mike Ford have, you know, what they're banking on right now is they can catch a caution. We would still have about 26 cars on the lead lap, but they're going to have to come to pit road here pretty quick.
Yeah, a caution would do several guys a lot of good, particularly Kyle Busch, whose car is running pretty decent now if he could get back some track position.
So Matt Kenseth takes over the lead as Denny Hamlin comes down pit road.
Yeah, and Matt Kenseth only has about a 3/4 of a second lead, but what helped him, he was one of those first cars to get to pit road and get advantage of those 4 fresh tires.
Here comes Hamlin in front of Matt.
Mike, the arts and crafts project for Hamlin and his team worked. The splitter was pushed back about 3 inches. The car, though, tight this past run. Mike Ford wanted to go up 2 rounds on the track bar for Hamlin to try to free the car up. A lot of people talking about how this racetrack has changed yet again. More grip.